Hello, I'm Faryal Hasan. I am 18 years old. So we're currently in Lahore Grammar School. I'm here for my art class because I have been an art student for about 5 years now. So I love art because it, first and foremost for me, builds a sense of community. You meet all kinds of people, and when you see other people's art, it really makes you feel like you're part of something bigger. So I took art in my O levels. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed coming to class. I was doing very well. I have the privilege that I go to a good school. My family can afford getting me expensive art supplies, fine quality brushes, paints, etc., etc. And I also have the privilege to be a digital artist because when I asked my mother for an iPad so I could start doing digital art, because I like fan art, I like being part of online communities, she said yes, and I've been doing digital art for 5 years now. When I started my A levels, I had a lot of hopes about doing over the top portfolio and all kinds of photography, doing different art styles and whatnot. But I found very soon that I was falling behind my other classmates. And this is because during my A1, I started developing the beginning of my symptoms. The pain became first noticeable when I was 15 years old. I would have sudden pulsating pain in my hands, in my legs. My back pain would become unbearable at night. I started slowly becoming more and more tired, more and more confused. It was harder for me to regulate my emotions. And at the time, it just felt like everything was wrong with me, that I couldn't do anything right. I didn't have the strength to do anything right. And nothing I was doing was helping me get any stronger. 2 years after experiencing symptoms, I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia at 18. By this point, I was severely behind my classmates in terms of portfolio work. I had been in and out of physiotherapy with mixed results because we didn't know what was wrong with me until that point. And even though I had had the privilege to be able to go to doctors and constantly have these sessions and get my tests done, doctors were not the most sympathetic, and they tended to give me excuses and easier explanations that your posture is wrong, or you're not sleeping enough, you're not eating enough. And only when I got to go to a specialist, which is a privilege that not many people in this country have, that's when I got my proper diagnosis and I started getting medicated. 18 years old is supposed to be the start of your youth. This was when I was supposed to be alive and young and full of energy and achieving things and going places. And instead, I found myself completely isolated from all my peers because I couldn't do what other people could do. I couldn't wake up in the morning and immediately stand up. I couldn't get up staircases to go to my classes. I couldn't sleep at night, but I'd fall asleep randomly throughout the day. I was always feeling as though my problems would never end enough for me to live life normally. That instead of surpassing my peers and pushing myself to my limits, I could barely do the bare minimum anymore. As an intersectional minority, discrimination is not something that I've not experienced before. I'm familiar with it. But ableism comes in many, many strange forms. My mother herself is chronically ill and disabled, and yet I find it so hard to understand her, and I find it so hard having to remind her and the rest of my family every day that I am not who I used to be, and I can't do what I used to be able to do. I was in a meeting with my principal one day. My mother was sitting with me, and we were discussing my illness and any facilitation and help I might need to get me through the academic year. And my mother tells my principal that, Faryal, she's so patient and she tries so hard to manage her illness. She manages it so well that we don't even really notice or have to worry about her too much because she's such an overachiever. And that's the crux of ableism. It's this constant line I have to do between proving that I am still good enough and capable, and having to let people know that there are places where I can't do things. I've only had the label of fibromyalgia for about half a year now, but in that time, I think I've learned a lot. When I meet new people now, it's this constant pressure I feel to let them know, but don't talk about it. That my illness is important and it affects me, but it cannot be all of me. I meet people and I'll make a joke like, yeah, no, you know me, I'm chronically ill, I can't do that. Why do I have this walking stick? Oh, I think it's aesthetically pleasing. I don't know how to communicate, I don't know how to introduce it. But my friends, my family, the staff at this school, the maids, they know me and they see me every day. And my illness has such a wide range of symptoms. Every day there's something else that's wrong with me. One day my legs aren't working, one day my hands aren't working, one day I can't stop crying, one day I'm not even there. And how do I explain to someone that, yeah, it's all just my illness? That's not what matters. I don't think it's important that people need to understand what I'm going through as much as people need to be willing to try. I found safety in my community. Every day when I don't advocate for who I am, but just exposing people slowly to my limitations, what I can do, what I can't do. When you look at a painting can mean any number of things, but maybe the value of art is not defined by what the art is trying to say, but instead people's willingness to view it, to acknowledge that it exists. And when it comes to privilege and advocating for people who do not have the same privilege, what is important is not trying to understand fully what they are and how they live, because you can never really be someone else. But that willingness to understand creates balance. That willingness to speak, to ask questions, to not be afraid to say, hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you carrying that stick? What's your story? Giving people that platform to talk about it, to make it the new normal. That's what's important, because I am not chronically ill, or I'm not female, I'm not just Faryal, I am all of these things. I am an artist, I am a sister, I am a daughter, I like to cook, I'm so many things. And what's not important is understanding and mathematically factoring in all these identities. What's important is letting me speak. Letting people, different people, be what they are freely, openly.